It was a rainy afternoon in New York City, the kind of rain that paints reflections on the pavement, where every face looks like a ghost of its own thoughts. Emma hurried through the café doors, clutching her coat close, her heart still heavy from the phone call she'd just had with her mother, another reminder that her life, despite all her efforts, was falling apart. Her job interview that morning had gone terribly wrong, her rent was overdue, and the person she had once called home had just texted to say he was engaged to someone else. She walked into the crowded café, her thoughts spinning like a broken carousel, and sat down at the first empty chair she saw. She didn't even notice the half-empty cup of coffee or the laptop sitting open on the table. Her hands trembled as she pulled off her gloves, trying to catch her breath, unaware that the seat she'd chosen wasn't empty at all. Across from her sat a man, tall, composed, with soft eyes that carried the kind of calm only those who had known storms could hold. He looked up from his laptop, momentarily surprised, and then smiled. Not a curious smile, not a flirtatious one, but a warm, patient one. For a moment, Emma froze. Then she blurted out an apology, flustered and embarrassed, ready to grab her things and run. But before she could, the stranger gently said, "It's all right. You can stay." His voice was calm, steady, the kind that feels like a blanket on a cold day. Clapperboard before we continue, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in moments that can change everything, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Dizzy. Emma hesitated. She didn't know why, but something in his tone made her pause. Maybe it was the exhaustion in her bones, or maybe it was the rare softness of being seen without having to speak. She nodded silently, her eyes avoiding his. The stranger returned to his laptop, typing quietly, while the rain continued its steady rhythm against the windows. For the first few minutes, neither of them spoke. The café was full of chatter, cups clinking, laughter, the hum of life moving on. Yet at that table, there was a fragile peace. Emma wrapped her hands around her cup, feeling the warmth seep into her palms. She wasn't sure why she didn't leave. Maybe she just needed to sit somewhere that didn't demand anything of her. Then, after a while, the man looked up again and said softly, "Rough day?" She could have lied. Said she was fine. But the exhaustion in her eyes betrayed her. So she simply nodded. "Something like that," she murmured. He didn't pry, didn't ask for details, just said, "Then maybe you're exactly where you're supposed to be." That sentence, simple as it was, cracked something inside her. She'd spent months feeling lost, invisible, unwanted. And now, a stranger was telling her that her wrong table might not be wrong at all. She didn't know why, but tears stung her eyes, and she quickly looked away, pretending to sip her coffee. Minutes passed. Then hours. She found herself talking, about her dreams, her struggles, her lost confidence. The stranger listened, really listened, without interrupting or offering easy solutions. He introduced himself only once, his name was Noah, but beyond that, he didn't talk much about himself. He just made space for her words, her silence, her unfiltered truth. The world outside grew darker, the café quieter. When she finally looked at her watch, 3 hours had passed. She stood, apologizing again for taking his time. He smiled, shook his head, and said, "You didn't take anything. Sometimes, sharing space is enough." She walked out that night with a strange feeling, lighter, somehow. For the first time in months, she didn't feel completely alone. Days turned into weeks. Emma found herself visiting the same café again, almost without meaning to. Sometimes she saw him there, typing away. Sometimes he wasn't. But whenever their eyes met, that same quiet understanding passed between them. They started talking more, about books, art, regrets, life. Emma learned that Noah was an architect, one who'd taken a long break from his career after losing someone he loved. He didn't talk about it much, but there was a shadow behind his eyes whenever her name, Lena, came up. Emma didn't ask. She knew pain when she saw it. Over time, their conversations became a kind of refuge. They didn't flirt, didn't label what was happening. It was simpler, purer. They were two lonely souls who had accidentally found a corner of peace in each other. One afternoon, Noah asked, "Do you believe that life puts us exactly where we need to be, even when it feels like a mistake?" She smiled faintly. "I didn't, until the day I sat at the wrong table." Months passed. Emma's life began to shift in small, quiet ways. She got a part-time job at a local art gallery. She started painting again, something she hadn't done since college. And every week, she found herself in that same café, sitting across from the same man who had unknowingly become her anchor. But happiness has a strange way of testing us. One day, Noah didn't show up. Then another day. And another. Emma tried to tell herself it was nothing. He must be busy. But something inside her stirred uneasily. A week later, she finally asked the barista about him. The woman hesitated, then said quietly, "Noah's in the hospital. He collapsed here 2 nights ago. Heart complications." Emma felt the air leave her body. She didn't even remember how she got to the hospital, only the sterile smell, the fluorescent lights, and the pale figure lying in bed. His eyes fluttered open when she said his name. "Hey," he whispered weakly, a faint smile on his lips. "Guess I missed our coffee." Tears filled her eyes. She wanted to say so much. To tell him how much his presence had meant, how he'd unknowingly helped her rebuild herself. But all she could manage was, "Don't you dare leave me too." He chuckled softly, his voice barely a breath. "Not planning to. But if I do, promise me you'll keep showing up for yourself." That was Noah, gentle, selfless, always thinking of someone else first. She stayed by his side for days. And slowly, he began to recover. Each sunrise brought a little more color to his cheeks, a little more hope. When he was finally discharged, they walked out of the hospital together, hand in hand, not lovers, not friends, but something deeper. Two people who had saved each other without meaning to. A year later, the cafe looked the same old wooden tables, the same soft music. Only this time, there was a painting on the wall, one that Emma had painted. It was titled "The Wrong Table." It showed 2 cups of coffee, half full, surrounded by sunlight streaming through rain. Beneath it, a small note read, "Sometimes, life leads us to the wrong place, to help us find what's right." That evening, as Emma sat at her favorite spot, Noah walked in, healthy and smiling, holding 2 cups of coffee. He placed one in front of her and said, "Right table this time?" She laughed through her tears. "Always." They sat there quietly, watching the world move outside, a reminder that sometimes, destiny doesn't arrive with grand gestures. Sometimes it comes softly, in the form of a stranger who refuses to let you leave. Crescent Moon. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your support helps us keep spreading stories that remind the world that kindness still exists. Sparkling Heart. Speech balloon. Before you go, comment below. I believe some mistakes are meant to happen. Let's see how many hearts still believe in beautiful accidents. Moral. Sometimes, sitting at the wrong table can lead you exactly where you belong. Because in life, not every wrong turn is a mistake, some are miracles wearing disguises.